Now we have some time today in the shop to do some more work on Mark's project. This is the progress so far. We've got a lot of the parts in prime. We're ready to test the white paint. We don't know how the day is going to play out yet. I've got this job, of course, is just an enormous amount of body work and panels and everything. Mark already took one of the fenders home. If we're waiting for paint to dry, we can get all the masking tape off. We still have to polish the discs on this. And we have two seats to put clear on. Now, one of the things I'm going to do this early this morning, as soon as I have my coffee, I always try to plan this out ahead of time. I want to take 1000 grit sandpaper. I got some ready right here. 1000 grit, spray simple green on all the parts, clean them up, 1000 grit them down, but not the decals, because what we're trying to do is put clear over the decals. And the same thing with this seat here too. Now Mark has also bought and brought over some of that pearl white, two-part white. You have to paint the parts white and then pearl white on top. And if we do have time today, we'll try to test that part out on one or two of the fairing parts just to see if he has a good match. So we got our work cut out for us. There's always something to do in the shop, but the most important thing is to start with a nice hot cup of coffee. Now what makes this job just a little more challenging than most is because some of the parts have to go down all the way to plastic, some have to just be primed, some parts like this just need to be re-cleared over the decals. So of course step one is always, and it's this part basically never changes. Every part that we have, and I don't know, I've asked Mark if he knows what kind of wax, if any, was used on this. And he didn't know, but we're not going to take a chance. Simple green will get a lot of it off. We'll sand it, we'll prep sole it. We'll try like heck to get it as clean as possible before we ever put 1000 grit sandpaper to it. Now the parts look nice and clean. They certainly look nice, but you never know. Silicone, fish eyes, there's all kinds of things can be hidden underneath here. And here's the challenging part. We can't really sand too much because whoever did these parts, it's basically done with tape. That's not a painted stripe, it's a tape stripe. So if we sand into this, it's going to be a problem. So I'm going to be very careful and just give this whole part a light sanding to start with. And no matter how many times I say it, and no matter how many times I try to explain to people that I've found the best thing is to spend a little more time than you think is necessary to prepare a part, whether it's for clear or primer or whatever. The time you spend prepping a part is so important. And even then, even after all that work, you can get fish eyes, or you can have contamination, or silicone, or in this case, you could get oil or grease or who knows what. So the amount of time and effort you put into prepping something before you act degreasing it is a better word. And what I do, I shove that rag up under there. I don't like to leave those in the shop because we have the baby coming over today, of course. We don't want to have any extra dust or anything really in the air to smell. Okay, now it looks like this part is in pretty nice shape. A couple little nicks and dings in it. I had to take some of my acetone and clean off the goop that was on the front here. I don't know what that was all about. But we're pretty much ready now, and I'll just do one spot and see how this works out. See if we're going to have it should be. I don't want to go over the decals or that tape any rougher than I have to. But 1000 grit is usually the best bet of all the testing I've done, all the fooling around, just to get a part ready so that you get a bond to the next coat of clear. Otherwise you run into that problem where that clear can just come off like saran wrap. And this modern urethane paint, it does come off like saran wrap. Now let me just show this, and then I can do the rest of the part off camera. If you can look at this, this is called candling. You can see the part is dull, shiny, dull, shiny, dull. That amount of sanding is what I'm going to do to prep this whole part. I'll get this one ready. Actually, I have two seats I want to get ready, and then I want to see how the clear is going to stick to these parts. But again, there's no clear on the decal, so I have to go right up to the decal, and I want to really avoid this stripe. I don't want to cut into that stripe if I can avoid it. Okay, that part's pretty much ready. It's been re-Prepsoled, and I've got it ready, just making sure that there's no spots. See, I really can't get any closer to the decals than that. And there's a couple little tiny flaws in it I'm afraid to start digging in, because I don't know how much clear is on there, and if I go through the white, then I gotta repaint the white. So I think this is going to be as good as we can make it, the most practical way for Mark. Now it's a question, he wants to cover this decal. Oh, this is not covered, and I got to be very careful around that decal and very careful around the tape. I'm going to prep that up exactly the same way, and it'll be ready half an hour, 40 minutes from now. We'll be ready to shoot some clear. And I hope the weather's going to cooperate, but then you never know. Now here's the thing that can always happen. And whenever you have old parts and you don't know who painted them or when they were painted or if they're factory paint or what. As I've gone through the steps, there's several spots on here where whoever did the paint originally had fisheye issues. And what happens if you sand back down into the fisheye, you reopen up that river of whatever it is that's in there. So I don't know. I think we're going to just take the path of least resistance here, because otherwise this part would have to come back down to plastic. And if I remember, Mark, he wanted to have this part by the weekend for whatever reason. It's his scheduling and mine are certainly totally different. I schedule around a baby. He schedules around whatever he schedules around. But we're going to take that out and let's see if the clear sticks, or if we're going to have these fisheyes that are already in here. They're going to come right through. I was real careful not to sand through. This is the clear that we've been using lately with some pretty nice results. And I always, if I have good luck with something, I like to pass that on to my friends. Okay, we're all ready to give this a shot. Of course, the wind is blowing. That's number one. And it's nice, a free bonus that the sun came out. That looks like it's going to be pretty good. All right, we start the day off with some success. Now, I'm going to give it 2 coats about 20 minutes apart. That'll tack out at about 20 minutes. Now, before I go on to the other part, I want to make sure this is just what I want. Oh yeah, that's going to be nice. Yes, that will be nice. Okay, I think we were, I see if I saw what happened 5 minutes after painting it, if I see a bunch of fish eyes or something crazy going on, especially over the decals. Sometimes when you go over decals, and Mark wanted that Morgan thing, egotistical guy that he is. So the time has gone by here. This should be tacked out by now. I got the 2 coats on, and I think it's just going to be just about as good as it gets for Mark. That's really going to be nice. Doesn't look like we had any issues at all with fish eyeing, but you never can tell. When you do parts like this, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Anybody that's done a lot of painting knows there are no no-hitters in painting, that's for sure. And I think that'll be that part of the job now is hopefully in the bank. As I'm looking around here. Now I think because of the way the weather is definitely paintable, I'm going to try to get some white paint on those fairing parts that we want to test. This I think is in the bank. Now these are all the components in Mark's pearl coat. Now what, and I haven't painted real pearl in many years, so I know we're going to base coat it out. I'm going to mix a small amount of this to base coat it out, and then, well, hopefully, and we bought 2 dedicated brand new spray guns so there wouldn't be any blue or red or anything to tint this, because obviously the white is a real issue, and I know Mark paid top dollar for that paint. Now, one of the things that's part of this job that Mark has done, he's gotten Sherwin-Williams paint. Now, the only problem with Sherwin-Williams paint is I'm not really familiar with it. It's not the devil I know. And I thought, because I always like to put this kind of information on video, 4th Dimension paint is the most inexpensive paint. It's what I've painted basically all my bikes with. This is not the cheapest paint you can buy. And it requires a special hardener that I'm going to be willing to bet is even more expensive. The hardener. The thinner is not clear. It's milky white, so I don't know how that's going to affect it. But what I'm doing with this paint, I'm mixing it exactly as they say. They're talking about 16 to 1, 16 to 1. Well, you could express that a lot of ways, of course. But so if this doesn't work out as we planned, we can at least say, well, we tried what the factory recommended first. And we're using a brand new spray gun. It's never had anything in it. So again, this will be a heck of an interesting thing. Now, what this is, it requires a base coat, requires this special milky hardener that they have, and then they have the pearl coat. So again, we're definitely gonna find out one way or another. Very, very, very soon. And again, it's a learning curve for me. Every time I try a different material that I haven't used before, I always learn something. Sometimes it's an expensive lesson, sometimes it's cheap. It's never cheap. Now, it's always a good idea when you're testing new paint, start with the smallest part, not the biggest part. I just want to see how this is going to spray. Remember, we're using $10 spray guns, so you never know what miracle surprise is waiting for you. And that wind has started to howl. As can happen, it's howling. It took 3 full coats of white. 3 full coats of white to get that white. Now, the point is, what I'm going to do is get the 3 coats of white on all the parts, and then set up the other gun for the pearl. But this is still a base white, and it covered okay, but no better than the 4th Dimension. What I'd say it was a tie. And with white, you always need 3 coats of white. That's the bottom line. So I took a little break. Had a couple other little things to do here. I wanted to see how this was drying up. This looks like this is going to be fine, but you never know. There's always a possibility. It actually looks like I could add a little bit of thinner to the paint. There's only one problem. Mark didn't bring, I'm going to put some more of that other stuff that's supposed to be thinner, but the milk thinner. So I'm thinking, the first thing I'm thinking after doing 3 parts with this paint, it needs to be thin just a little more than 50-50. Usually I would take the can put a can of the milk thinner in, and then probably a shot glass full of 733, the regular thinner. And I think it'll just flow out a little nicer. Again, the other parts are drying up just about as nice as can be. And we're basically in the middle of turning our a little workshop into a laundromat. Now, one thing, they recommend these guns spray at 50 to 70. I've tried to spray even lower pressure, but they seem happiest about 50 psi. That doesn't blow away. Don't blow away, baby. You always have to be ready to catch the fish. Don't blow the wind. And there's really not much you can do about white. White just takes a lot of paint. Those dark blue fairings, they covered fall way quicker than this, but luckily Mark threw it over some extra paint anyway, so we're going to see how much we need at the end of it. Yeah, that little extra thinner did seem to let it flow out just a little bit better. But again, you still need 3 coats no matter what you do with this, or else that pearl is never going to really base out nice. And here's our matching piece to that set of bodywork. Now once this is all based out, and actually we can do it anytime today, then I want to get that. I want to do the smallest part with a test of the pearl, but what I'll do is while all of these parts are drying, I'll just have lunch, let them all set up good. They tell you to let it set up anywhere from 20 minutes to infinity. Now we still have other pieces to do, but every time I'm in the garage adding a piece, I look around, make sure everything's just cooking and drying up just the way I want. And it looks like this might be a very good day. The new gun and this paint, the paint with just a little extra thinner, working well. You can see how quickly what happens in the cellar, what happens is we just run out of room. And this is why this particular job, I'm trying to get some of it out of here because if I had a bigger shop, it would be easy. And I still have the 2 big side fairings to do next. But I really do run. The thing I don't have a lot of is room. Now you always have to be careful. Some of these big parts are pretty aerodynamic and that wind is blowing. It's amazing how different the paint is on the second and third coat. That first coat is, if you left it that way, it would be almost gray. And the worst color of all is that color my Kawasaki 750 is. That green is, holy mackerel. You need 10 coats if you want it to be that color green. Here comes the wind. They make these parts aerodynamic so that the bike is faster on top end, but the wind loves to get a hold of them. That's for sure. Boy, is that wind kicking up. Wow. We always have to deal with something here. It's amazing. The deal is to try to get the parts straight and get them into the garage as soon as possible. Sometimes that doesn't exactly work as planned. You know, officially have a laundromat. There's stuff hanging everywhere, stuff drying everywhere. Now what's really going to be important here, the next step on this, I'll be able to start this part, it's already ready for the pearl. I'm going to mix the pearl exactly the same, 50-50 to start with, maybe a little extra thinner, that milky toast thinner, and then shoot the pearl on this. I need to see how many coats of pearl it's going to take to bring this up, but again, until I know, it's going to require a little experimenting. But so far the day's played out pretty good, but you can see what happens, how quick we run out of room. We run out of coat hangers here in a laundromat. Grandpa Wendy's laundromat. And we got the baby coming, so there's no way I can stretch this out into the wee hours. All right, this is the test of the pearl white. Because he trips on his own compressor. Well, it definitely has some pearl in it. That's got a lot of pearl in it, in fact. Painting one coat vertical, one coat, and one coat on a 45. Which is usually the way you get it to set the nicest. It definitely has some pearl in it. Not really sure you can see on the camera the little pearl effect, the little, and that of course will get even more pronounced once we put the clear on. Well, so far so good with the pearl. Now I don't know if you can see it on the video, but with the sun shining here, the sun is really making this look great. I think Mark's going to be just thrilled as could be. I know this is some expensive paint. He'll feel like he got his money's worth, that's for sure. Oh yeah, that sparkles up nice. Wow. He's gonna love it. Again, what I usually would do is go back and forth, up and down, and on a 40-degree angle, just to set the pearl flake. It's not critical, but it does make it just a little bit nicer. I hear the sirens. I hope nothing bad is happening here. Or they're finding out where I live or something. Just wanted to see if we could reflect in the sun. Get the look of how that pearl has set up. And as I said before, once you put the clear on this, it's even going to look nicer. But that does look pretty nice. I have to take my hat off to Mark. That's a good choice of colors. Really does look nice in the sun. I am really impressed with the paint. The paint, Mark, I think you got your money's worth on this paint. But if the wind would just stop blowing for a few minutes, it would be really nice. The only thing killing this day is the wind. Not killing it, but it's not making it any easier, that's for sure. It's never easy. Never easy. Come on, wind, don't blow now, baby. We got one more part to go. The shame is if you're watching this video on a small screen, you probably won't see the pearlescence in the paint. What I always watch YouTube on my my big screen living room TV, and you can see all the little, you can see the mistakes too. Maybe you should keep watching it on your cell phone. But it does look good on a big screen TV. This is beautiful paint. This is one of the things that I'll come away from this job impressed with. If I ever want to do some pearl work, this is some real nice paint. And I'm guessing it's a really close match to what this Yamaha was. It's not a Stevie Wonder match. Now I just love coming out here and seeing how this is drying up. And again, if you're not watching on a big screen TV, you probably don't see the little details of the pearl, but they're there, believe me. When this gets cleared, and this has to dry for about an hour now before I put a coat of clear. Now the reason for putting the clear on was we're going to do some striping on this. The reason for putting the clear on these parts is very simple. From my experience shooting clear, shooting pearl years ago, when you would put the masking tape on, it would leave a mark in the pearl, and I didn't like that. And the way to get around that was to just put the clear on top and then let the paint harden for at least a week before you put masking tape on it. That's kind of the trick, but even our seat has dried up nice, but there's not much not to like today. The only problem is days like this are few and far between. The only thing we had to deal with today was the wind. The wind and the fact that the laundromat is open for business now. We certainly are open for business. This truly was a good session. Now what I'm going to try to do is come back out here in about an hour, 2 hours. I have a couple things to do, and if the weather still holds up, I'm going to try to get a coat of clear on everything. And again, if I get that done today, boy, I'll be just thinking I'm in Fat City. And very soon, Karen and I will be starting one of our other projects, our garden. We've already been to the garden center. She's already picked stuff out tentatively, and we have a big cleanup to do. And well, what can I say? It's a lot of work. Okay, now this part has the first coat of clear, and it's only going to have one coat. The whole idea, the only reason for putting that clear on is we're going to be putting masking tape on this. And again, this has to sit, in my experience, if you rush it, you're in big trouble. That has to sit at least a week and harden up before you put masking tape on it to get nice clean lines. But that pearl really, I hope you have a big screen TV, you can see that. You'll see the little pearl flakes in it. It really does look nice. Yeah, that clear really makes this stuff pop. It's unbelievable. Now another thing I learned the hard way painting pearl years ago. If for instance a bug happens to fly into this now and you go to take a pin or a razor and get it out, you basically have to repaint the whole part. There's no touching this up. This is a repaint the panel, and probably in this case it'd be a lot of work prepping it. So I'm very happy for one thing. We're not into the bug season where mosquitoes are out here or bugs or anything. The only thing we're dealing with here is the wind has been the only downside of today. Now the sun just came out as I finished putting the clear on this. I'm not sure you can really see that. Again, I think the only time you're going to see that is on a big screen, because all this stuff is in high def. All the stuff I shoot is high def. So, boy, that is a nice color. That is pretty. I wanted to get this to show the pearl, but you know what? It's not happening because of a simple reason. The sun just went behind the clouds. Now, end of the day, before I run over and pick up the baby, I need one more look at the stuff drying. See how this is drying up. And boy, I really wish everybody could see this in high def, of course. It's just unbelievable how nice that came out. One of the better days we've had painting, that's for sure. I shouldn't underestimate that the day did go off pretty good. I guess it's Mark's lucky day, that's the bottom line. And we've got that, he can pick it up. I know he was looking to get that in the next couple days, but these parts have to sit a week. He can pick up the 2 seats, came out great. No problem at all. And the bodywork, the big parts, well, they're just going to be beautiful. We're going to get the striping. Now it's going to be a labor-intensive thing to replicate the striping on this bike. It's going to be like the RD. In fact, it's exactly like the RD. It's going to be quite an investment in time, so we want to do it all. We want this to be as solid as possible, and this is really nice paint. I really am happy the way that came out. And we got the blue parts. We've got decals coming in the next couple of days, and of course that green wheel. I've got to order a tire. Haven't even had time to order a tire yet. I've been so busy. And doing that striping on there, what our intention is because Mark already has good body work that isn't damaged, that we can make a pattern for each one of these blocks so it'll be an exact replication of that. He's got decals coming, and this is going to be a beautiful bike when it's done. And he's got spare parts for it. That's the biggest thing of all. These old bikes. And we got more spare body work over there. I got more stuff down here to work on. I got another fender. But boy, I put this day in the bank. This was a great day. A great day to be Mark Morgan. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. So you made the world's biggest, this is a golf course on this end, and a pizza pie box on this end, and where do the cars go? And heaven on that end. Let's see how they go. And a bus. Let's see how it works.
So this, like,
let's see what you, let them go.
So this, like,
whoa! He made this whole thing by himself. A few scraps laying around. Let's see him go. He goes across the bridge. And then what happens?
and he goes in a bus.
Oh, there goes the bridge. Where does he go now? Let him go. It's good to have talent to make these Hot Wheels things. Where does he go? Let's see. He's doing a track day. Let him go out. Come on.
Now look.
Let's see. Is he coming down the ramp?
So ready?
Whoa!
Wait up.
Boy, you are some engineer.